Welcome to the UNA Baseball Review. Here are your hosts, Coach Mike Keene and Jeff Hodges.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the UNA Baseball Review. I'm Jeff Hodges alongside UNA head baseball coach Mike Keene. Coach Keene, the UNA Lions 26-9 overall, still ranked in the top 20 in all three national polls, but had something a little different this week. For the first time this season, you lost the Gulf South Conference Series and a big one down at Valdosta State, but the Lions 7-5 in the conference race, still right in the middle of that race. But it was a long road trip and a tough one.
Yeah, it was obviously a long way down there, and it was kind of an unusual trip. We planned on leaving earlier than we ever could because they were on spring break, and then when we get about at the Montevallo exit, they had their I-65 shut down, so what was going to be a little quicker, we had a 2-hour delay to get around, so we didn't really gain much ground getting down that evening. And obviously the game time switched due to weather, and instead of playing 2 games on Saturday, we go to one single game at 7 o'clock in the evening, and we just didn't handle that change very well. And obviously that's my job to kind of get us in a position to be prepared, and obviously I didn't do a good enough job to get us ready, and didn't play very well, and they played very well.
You lost the first game 10-2. You came back and had a comfortable lead in game 2, 7-1. You ended up winning that one 7-6, and then dropped the finale. But had something else a little unusual. You faced 3 straight left-handed starters, and that was a little caused some changes in your lineup.
Yeah, and that's we really haven't had like the multiple lefties. We have maybe one, and we've been doing okay with that. But there's one thing having that quality of left-handers, and they were obviously Rogers has had very good numbers, pitched very well all year long, so we knew that was going to be a tough game for us, the first game. But we just didn't play well enough defensively to keep us in the ball game. And then the second game, we were able to make some things happen, put pressure on their defense, and we're able to get a big hit by Darmal Moore to kind of open the game up a little bit, and then we're able to hold off for that game. And actually, the last game was a 3-3 at one time. It was a good ball game. They got the big hits, and we didn't get the big hits, and so that's where it ended up 5-3 in the finale.
And Chad Bonner won his 4th straight start for you in that second game. You came back, played a non-conference game against a very good Freed-Hardeman team. You were able to pull out a 5-4 win on Tuesday, and Andrew Hillis just gave you another phenomenal performance on the mound.
And every time we turn around, I'm looking at these NAI teams, and every one of them is ranked. So it's like, I'm looking at the stretch from Harding on, how many ranked teams we played in this past 2 or 3 weeks. So, we knew they were going to be a good ball club, and I thought it was one of those typical midweek games where you maybe weren't quite as intense as you like to, but I was glad Andrew came on the mound, was ready to pitch, and gave us another good quality outing.
And a couple of good performances for you, especially down on the road. Michael Schmidt, a great series at Valdosta State, and then Josh Sear in the non-conference game at home, 2 home runs.
I think, Valdosta, Michael Schmidt just had a great weekend, and that's what's kind of, it's too bad that we didn't get a couple wins out of there, because I think he would have got some accolades for how well he did. But he was on base every time he turned around. We just were unable to hit him in, but just really good weekend. And then I was glad to see Josh come out with those 2 home runs, because, again, it wasn't that we were having bad at-bats, but we needed some big hits, and he was able to get two big hits, and one was a 2-run home and the solo home run that really gave us the win.
We'll take a quick break, and we'll have more Lion baseball for you after this.
The UNA Baseball Review is brought to you by TNT Fireworks, Shoals Distributing Budweiser, and by TVA Credit Union of the Shoals.
TNT Fireworks is proud to support the University of North Alabama and the Lion baseball team. Like the UNA baseball program, TNT Fireworks is committed to excellence. Our product, service, and teamwork are the reasons we are America's #1 selling fireworks brand. Check us out at TNTfireworks.com. And remember, if it's not TNT, it's not fireworks. TNT Fireworks encourages the entire Shoals area to support head coach Mike Keene and his UNA Lions by attending a game at Mike D. Lane Field. Roar Lions!
Daddy, can I get a puppy, please?
Okay, Sammy. It's bedtime.
Oh, 10 more minutes, please.
10 more.
Yes. Please.
Hey, Daddy. Will you buy some alcohol for my party tonight? We'll be right here at the house. You can even take the keys. Please?
Absolutely not.
Each time I turn around.
Never let me have anything.
Don't be a pushover.
I hate you.
Be a parent. Prevent. Don't provide alcohol to minors.
TVA Credit Union was established by the Farm Credit Administration on June 24, 1936, with 7 branches full of financial experts offering personal advice. TVA Credit Union offers low rates for mortgages, auto and personal loans, as well as higher rates on savings and CDs. TVA Credit Union is member-owned and operated, and now open to the community. TVA Credit Union is everybody's credit union. Give TVA Credit Union a call today, 256-386-3000, or stop by any branch.
And welcome back to the UNA Baseball Review. Coach Keene, the UNA Lions in the midst of the Gulf South Conference race, and if you're following the standings throughout the season, it's a little different this year. Everybody has the same number of series, but everybody also has a week off in between. So some teams have played 15 games, some have played 12. So when you look at the standings, it's a little shaken up. But right now, with the win last weekend over UNA Valdosta State in first place at 9-3, Alabama Huntsville 10-5, and then UNA and Delta State both 7-5. And let's first talk about Delta State. They lost their first two conference series both at home. Then they went on the road and beat West Florida 3 straight. So they've jumped right back into the race, and they're going to be a tough opponent for UNA.
Yeah, that's, you know, anytime you play Delta State, it's going to be a good game, a tough opponent, very well coached. Obviously, we know they got a very good team. I think they're like a lot of teams, you know, you get to figure out what team is actually going to show up. They've had a little inconsistency. You know, you'll see one week where one of their pitchers is like lights out, and the next week he's not. And for them to lose two of them, you know, 2 out of 3 at home twice is to me is incredible that happened. But you know, you got to have some breaks. You got to be able to play well each weekend. And it's the same thing. You know, we haven't really put together a good full 3 games in a weekend, and that's what you'll find out when you don't. You can end up losing a series pretty quick because the talent level is so even across the board, and you know, and you kind of surprised. Even like UAH goes out and sweeps West Georgia. One time West Georgia was leading, and they were, you know, rolling along pretty good. And so it's weekend to weekend. You got to be ready to play every weekend. With the Arkansas schools out of the GSC, and now you just have one division, or you know, everybody in the league plays everybody. This will be the first time since '92 we've played Delta State as a conference series. But anytime we've played Delta State over the years, as you said, it's always been treated that way by both sides. Yeah, that was a lot of our guys don't understand. You know, when I first got here, I didn't know until we played the first game way back in 1989, and they got such a deep tradition. So then, you know, the level at that time, we were in the same division, and those games were pretty much who was going to have a chance to be first or second in our division. So the games always had a lot on the line. So I think it's kind of neat to have them back into our side where we play them on a regular basis, and you know, they have a good fan base, very knowledgeable fans, and you know, they're a very, very well coached team. So it's kind of nice to bring that down. And the other thing about what UNA and all the other sports you take, that's one of kind of the rival sports that we really have that consist of throughout all the sports, because you do in the East have a lot of teams that don't really have a, you know, they don't have a football program, so they really don't have all sports kind of having the same connection. So should be a real interesting weekend. Hopefully have a good crowd, good weather, and be able to play well. With 4 weekends left in conference play, a lot of different scenarios for the different teams, but for UNA, a pretty good scenario. 3 of the Final 4 series at home. You have Christian Brothers in New Orleans, who are the bottom 2 teams, coming to Mike Lane Field to play, so the odds looking good in our favor. Well, I think, you know, you can't ever assume anything. I do like the fact that we do get to play those 2 games at home. Obviously, the University of New Orleans game was originally scheduled at University of New Orleans, and then due to a conflict, they had to switch it back to our place. We will decide. That was one I forgot about it too, and so we will have senior day that weekend, since we do have that weekend as opposed to doing it against Union. So then obviously ending with UAH at UAH. So you know, we got a big weekend here, and then you just got to make sure you continue. Don't take anybody lightly. Don't look at the standings, and just play the game and do what we need to do and play well. And Valdosta State, as we said, 9-3 right now, but the Blazers have West Georgia, Alabama, Huntsville, West Alabama, and West Florida left, which is a really tough slate for them. But Alabama, Huntsville, in second place right now, plays West Florida, Valdosta, and UNA, so they've really got a tough road as well. Yeah, and I think UAH, earlier in the year, they had an injury, and that's kind of what you do is you try to not, if you have an injuries or get over them, and they had some injuries early, and he got back into their lineup, and obviously he's made a tremendous difference because ever since he's been back in the lineup, they've got a lot more consistent, they're winning a lot more games, so I know they're at full strength right now, and they're playing very well, so you know, it's going to go down tight, and I think Valdosta, you know, obviously we haven't seen everybody, but, you know, the weekend with Valdosta, you know, they were, you know, offensively did a very good job of moving runners, hitting in scoring position, and they had, with those 3 lefties on the mound, you know, they're able to keep them in the game. Each conference series obviously important. That's going to determine the seeding for the GSC tournament over in Rome, Georgia this year. That'll be a new facility for UNA to play in. It's home of the Braves over there, and that's going to be an exciting weekend. Everybody's in the tournament for the first time. That's right. Yeah, see, that was the thing this year, you know, and I don't know, maybe that's why it's a little bit different because, you know, in the past it was a top 4, so you know every weekend to get into the tournament was going to be tough. This year, you know you're in, but now you're trying to decide, you know, who's first, who's 8th. But I think we're all excited about being in the new facility. If you ever go online and look at it, it is a tremendous facility. It's where, you know, with the Braves, I don't know if it's a AA ballpark or whichever one it is, but it's a beautiful venue, and I think it's going to be just the atmosphere around it will be real exciting to have an opportunity to play in a facility like that. And we've talked throughout the season not only about the conference games, but every game important as far as the regional rankings. And the Lions hanging in there right now, second in the Baseball Writers poll behind Tampa. So each game important there. But when you look at the conference standings, only
only UNA and Delta State are below the double-digit loss. So as long as you can win the conference games and put some more losses on those guys, it really helps you in the regional rankings as well.
Yeah, and I think that was one of the part of the equation. You know, I think we so far have done a pretty good job, but I think the Delta State weekend will obviously have a huge bearing on that. Continue to put you in a good position in the regional, and you know, that's kind of what you want to do. You can't control what the Sunshine they're doing at that point, but we got to be able to try to play well on the weekends. Always continue to win some of those midweek games, you know, to keep our opportunities up there. You know, again, right now you look at where you're sitting now, you're doing pretty good, but as we saw last year, every weekend can change and it can move you from a good position to a position where you don't really want to be in.
While we're talking about the Gulf South Conference standings, just a quick reference to the Gulf South Conference stats. Michael Schmidt from UNA's batting average up to .409, second in the conference. Jake Sloan also among the conference leaders. And then Josh Sear, even though his average it's up around 250 now, but he's second in the conference in runs batted in, and he's been consistent there all season. Yeah,
that was, you know, earlier in the year when you're looking at lineups and how Josh was struggling, kind of moved him, you know, back out of lineup. But then I realized, looking at his numbers, he was leading us in RBI. So even though his batting average wasn't that high, he was very productive with runners in scoring position. And then Michael's been just such a good leadoff hitter for us. He gets on base. His on-base percentage is way up there. That's what you want a leadoff hitter. But he's done some this year. I think when he uses a whole field, because surprisingly have with him hitting 5 home runs, you know, that's something that, you know, we're not asking him to do, but he's got that potential. And then obviously Jake is a very good hitter, also in the middle of our lineup. So, you know, all three of those guys have done very well, and they're doing well as far as in the conference stats also.
As far as the team, the Lions fourth in the conference in batting, but you're second in runs scored, and you're also up to third in fielding, which, you know, at times it seems like we've grouped our errors. But, you know, other games we've had long stretches where we play very well defensively. And we saw something against Freed Hardman on Tuesday, some great plays by Andrew Allman at third base for one.
And I thought that was one of the things that I thought out of the Freed Hardman game, where we really looked back like we were the defensive team that we were early in the year. You know, the thing where I've seen is we have actually struggled a little bit in conference and defensively, and that's where you struggle defensively in the conference. I mean, that's not a good thing. So we got the capability to have a very good defensive team. We just got to, you know, make sure we're focused and make all the plays and allow them to have to score runs from home plate.
And pitching-wise, UNA up to third in the conference in earned run average, and Chad Bonner been doing a great job for you. Last year you had Trey Mitchell kind of going out and, you know, getting that first game for you. Chad, even though he's pitching later in the series, has been very consistent.
Yeah, that's you know, I think that's again this staff that we've had the 3 starters from the beginning of the season to this point, and obviously Chad's won some big games for us to get the series win and then to give us a win that last night against Valdosta. So, but you know, I think the pitching part has been pretty consistent, and we just got to make sure our defense stays with it.
We'll take another quick break, and we'll have some more Lion baseball for you after this.
The UNA Baseball Review is brought to you by McDonald's and by the Courthouse Racket Club.
Looks like there's an opening for shipping coordinator, and I've got to pick someone. Tough decision.
Okay, you could be a rising star, but you just ordered a crispy McChicken and a fresh brewed sweet tea for only $1 each off McDonald's dollar menu. So you're smart, right? Yeah, I got nothing.
Smart man. 2 sevens.
Oh! Wow.
The fox strikes again.
The fox strikes again. He's always right. The simple joy of being smart.
Hi, I'm Mike Keene, head baseball coach at the University of North Alabama. Have you ever heard the saying, great baseball players are made in the off-season? As a college baseball coach, I can tell which high school recruits are on a weight program and which ones are not. Help your young athlete reach the top of his sport by training with the personal trainers at the Courthouse Racket Club. Our 5 trainers are ready to work at your athlete's pace and your schedule. Try our 3andMe training program designed for 3 athletes to work with a trainer and lower the cost to fit any budget. Call Ken Irby at 764-0034 to set up a program designed especially for your young athlete. The Courthouse Racket Club, proudly serving the Shoals for 30 years.
Welcome back to the UNA Baseball Review. I'm joined now by UNA assistant coach Matt Hancock. And Matt, the pitching coach with the Lions, and going into the season, you had 2 starters returning, you had a couple other guys on the staff, but it was still kind of a mystery, you know, what you were going to get into this season. And just start off by talking about the starting pitchers, but your rotation of Johnny Hornbuckle, Chad Bonner, and Michael Watkins has really done a good job for you so far.
Yeah, we're, you know, they've done a good job, the 3 main guys, and we've really done a good job of providing some depth on down the line. I really felt like going in that we may have 9 or 10 guys that could do a good job for us and give us some innings, and so far that's been true. There's still some guys that haven't got out there as much as they probably deserve, but you know, that's how it is when you're winning games and everyone's doing their job.
We'll start off by talking about Chad Bonner, the junior from Florence. Chad's 6-2 now. He's won his last 4 starts. He's been the GSC Pitcher of the Week 3 times this season, got a .310 ERA. but just really been phenomenal of late. He had a streak of 20 2/3 consecutive scoreless innings and got a pretty comfortable lead down at Valdosta, gave up a few runs, but still pitching very well.
Yeah, Chad, you know, he's just been phenomenal all year. You can't say enough good things about him. And down at Valdosta, he really battled. I mean, it was a hot day, a day where our bullpen was short. Seabrook's over in the dugout having migraine headaches, and we knew we weren't going to have him. And I went up to him in the 7th inning. I said, I need 6 more outs, and he gave us 7 of those. So, or excuse me, 5 of those. But he battled, and that's what Chad does. He goes out there and executes pitches, and you know, nothing short of perfect is good enough for him.
Johnny Hornbuckle, 5-4 now for you, and he struggled in 3 of his last 4 outings, but he's hung in there for you, and you really haven't had to go to the bullpen very much. I mean, even though he's had some tough losses, he's really eaten up a lot of innings for you.
That's what Johnny does. He competes, and he's going to go out there and he's going to throw strikes for the most part. He might hit a guy when you don't want him to, and that's frustrating at times, but he really battles hard, and that's what we knew you're going to get out of him. Now, he needs to shore some things up and be a little bit more refined at times, but he's also hadn't had the best luck when he's been out there. We haven't played our best behind him, and when we have, he hasn't been his sharpest. So we're kind of still waiting to put everything together with him. But one thing you know, you're going to get about 7 to 8 innings out of him, and he's going to give you everything he has.
Michael Watkins been pitching the 7-inning games for you. He's 5-1, his first loss of the season down at Valdosta State, but he hung in there and competed in that one and really had a great game over at West Georgia.
Michael's still putting it all together. You know, he's one of those who, Coach Keen and I talk, he still hasn't, in our opinion, been as good as he possibly can be. He's a guy that probably has the best velocity on our staff. He could be an upper 80s, 87, 89 mile an hour guy with a really good breaking ball. He just haven't had both pitches going all the time yet. And, you know, but you look up at the end of the day and there's just 2 or 3 runs scored on him, you say, well, not great, but pretty good. And he's continuing to learn. And if I went out and told Michael, you know, stand on your head and pitch, he'd do it that way. So he'll do anything we ask him to do, and he's really doing a good job of learning how to pitch in this conference.
And those 3 guys have been your starting rotation since the first day of the season. Andrew Hillis has also stepped up. He's been your middle of the week guy. He's 4-1 right now. He's had 4 great starts in a row, and his .303 earned run average is the lowest on the team among all the starters right now.
You know, it's great having a guy like Andrew you can run out there on Tuesdays. There's not a lot of teams that have a solid Tuesday guy that can go out there and put up the numbers he has. And, you know, out of junior college, we thought that Andrew was a guy that stuff-wise could be very good. And he's got very good swing and miss stuff. He's got a mid-upper 80s fastball with a sharp slider, and it's just a matter of getting it in the zone. And he's another guy who's really worked hard since he's got in here and gained some confidence last year in that role and has really, you know, hit the ground running with it this year.
Last year you had Casey Jones pitching for you, who really came in a lot of games, ate up a lot of innings. You really haven't had to have that person this season, but when you have, you've had 3 freshmen that have really done a good job with you. Brantley Claunch to start with.
Yeah, you know, a guy like Casey, when we lost him, I said, well, there goes 4 arms, because that's kind of what he was. You know, we kind of abused Casey in the sense that he said, well, my arm's torn up, so I never get tired, I never get sore, so we just kept running them out there to get, you know, he'd get outs. But, you know, that's why we felt like we had to bring so many guys in to replace him, and Brantley's jumped right in. He threw the most strikes. He has a lot of confidence when he goes out there, does a great job. Jacob Westerhouse comes in, we thought he might be that Casey Jones kind of guy, get the ground balls, and he can be. He's still just learning to, you know, let his stuff work over the middle of the plate with the sink on his fastball and throwing that slider for a strike when he absolutely has to. And Drew Mobley's come in, giving us added innings. He's still developing that off-speed pitch, that good slider, trying to go with his fastball changeup combination and develop the confidence. And then a guy like Ben Seabrook at the end's just been lights out for us so far.
Ben with 9 saves, but it's kind of a double-edged sword, I guess, at times, because your starting pitchers have pitched so well that guys like Jacob and Drew have been getting very limited use lately, and then when you're going to need them, they may not have pitched in quite a while.
Yeah, and that's tough. That's hard on them. That's not necessarily fair all the time, but it's one of those things where they have to get their side works in. And, you know, if you watch us at home, even on the road after a Sunday series, if those guys don't throw, they're the first guys down in the bullpen after a game getting their work in, and that's what they have to do. And they understand it. You know, they don't complain. They'd rather see their teammates go out there and do well. And if they pitch, then they pitch. If they don't, then they just keep working on getting better and be ready to go next time.
Drew Batchelor, a guy going into the season you thought would be a starter for you midweek. He did a good job in his first start for you, but now his role's changed a little bit, and he was able to come in and give you some great relief innings down at Valdosta State.
You know, that was a perfect example of what I'm talking about with getting your work in on the side. I mean, Drew hadn't had an opportunity in about a month and a half to go out there and pitch, and he could have very easily folded up the tent and said, well, I'm not going to get many opportunities. And his number was called and we needed him big, and he really did his part last week. I mean, he came in not only once, twice, he came in the 3rd time and did his job. So really won the ball game for us, got that big last out, and you know, avoided the sweep down there at Valdosta. So hopefully he can continue to do that, because it just gives us one more good arm out of our pen.
We talked about the Gulf South Conference race earlier, and there's 4 weekends left, so 4 big weekend series. How do you feel about your pitching staff going into the stretch run of the season? Because really they've seemed to be coming together right at the right time.
We have to finish is what we have to do. We got off to a good start, and we talk about that all the time. We've put in the work to put us in the situation to get where we're at. Now we have to finish strong, and not only the last 4 weekends in conference, but conference tournament and regionals. And we came up a little short in the regionals last year, and that's kind of the one thing I've harped upon is we didn't finish last year. We put us in that situation, but our bodies got tired, our arms got tired, and we can't let that happen. So we got to keep going. We got to keep working hard and continue just to take 1 weekend at a time, and hopefully everything will work out.
We'll take another quick break and have more Lion baseball for you when we come back.
The UNA Baseball Review is brought to you by Riccatonis and by TVA Credit Union at the Shoals.
I'm Riccatoni Valentino, and I've got a question for you. Do you like lasagna? Do you like spaghetti? Do you like pizza? Do you like ravioli? Do you like steak marsala? Do you like shrimp spadino? Do you like to have a good time? If you answered yes to any of those questions, you need to go to Riccatoni's in historic downtown Florence. They know how to have fun down there, and the food's great. So remember, it's Riccatoni's Italian Grill in downtown Florence, and tell them Riccatoni Valentino sent you.
TVA Credit Union was established by the Farm Credit Administration on June 24, 1936, with 7 branches full of financial experts offering personal advice. TVA Credit Union offers low rates for mortgages, auto and personal loans, as well as higher rates on savings and CDs. TVA Credit Union is member-owned and operated, and now open to the community. TVA Credit Union is everybody's credit union. Give TVA Credit Union a call today, 256-386-3000, or stop by any branch.
Welcome back to the UNA Baseball Review. This is our player profile segment, and Coach Keene, we talked earlier with Coach Hancock about all the new guys in the UNA pitching staff and how some of them really had limited opportunities. We're going to look at 3 guys today who've been able to pitch some for you, but really have had limited opportunities because of the great job your starting pitchers have done for you.
Yeah, and that's we talked that about when you do get an opportunity, you're making the most of it, and some do, but the downside is when someone is doing well, then it kind of eliminates someone else getting an extra opportunity, and then it's. Like I said, I think they're capable of doing that. Hopefully we'll give them another chance to get out there, and there's still a lot of season left, so that still can happen. You never know, like we talked about with Drew Batcher this past weekend. You just got to be ready to go when you're called upon to help us win a game, and you just got to be ready for it, and that's all you can really do at this point.
And as we get into our profiles, as you said, Batcher going to be the first one, and you needed a left-handed reliever this weekend, and he was able to come in and do a good job for you on Saturday, and then he actually got a save on Sunday. Yeah, and like I said, we knew Drew. He got good stuff. One of the things that he probably was part of his game early in the year, his ability to hold runners. And I'll tell you what, I hadn't seen him in a while because obviously he's working with Coach Hancock down the bullpen. And when he came out that day and was mixing it up, and Valdosta's coach talked about what a good job he did of controlling the running game. But I mean, he had stuff that I've never seen him be able to do, really mixed it well. And the other part of that, he was able to throw strikes as he held runners. So he did, and that's a tough part. Some guys can hold runners, but they can't throw strikes, and he's able to do both. And like I said, it was really huge for us this past weekend. And in both days, it was in real pressure situations.
Yeah, and that was what the thing is, he stepped up, and here we are probably facing on statistically by far the best offensive team, and he has to jump out in the middle of the weekend in a nice ballpark, a pressure situation. He handled it extremely well.
He's 1-0 this season, has a .318 earned run average, and as we said, he's partly been limited by the great job Andrew Hillis has done in some of those middle of the week games, is being able to jump right into the lineup. Here's another right-handed pitcher for you, Eric Bolton, a freshman from Nashville.
Yeah, Eric, he came in as a freshman out of Nashville. His dad actually was a major league pitcher, and Eric's kind of had one of those pitchers that it seems like right when he's going to get a chance, he's had something come up, either a slight injury or an illness, and that's kind of what happened again. So. Then he just hasn't had really the chance. He did get that one chance in that one inning, and it's like I said, when you get in there late, I know he's rushing to get in there, try to get an inning, and it depends on how you get that opportunity. But I know he he works hard at it, does a good job with that, and then, you know, it's like I said, we talked about it when you get into staff and in college, that's one of those things. You get this limited time, and you just got to keep working hard.
This is one of those staffs too, kind of a rare staff, but very deep for you. And you've actually used 13 different pitchers this season.
And that was, you know, probably that's, you know, Coach Hancock talked earlier about that. Is one of the different things. Last year was a very small amount of guys, and this year there's been a lot more guys, and that's sometimes it's frustrating as a coach because you know you like to get a guy in there, but sometimes the situation, the game doesn't allow it.
Here's Brad Van Feckman. He's from pretty far off East Greenwich, Rhode Island. He's gotten a couple opportunities this year. He got roughed up his first time out, but came back and pitched very well his second appearance.
Yeah, a lot of say, how would an individual from Rhode Island end up down here? But actually his family, when he was real young, actually lived in Florence, Alabama before they moved out of the area. And, you know, he had a guy that we kind of figured that basically was almost between him and Brantley. We were trying to figure out who was going to be the middle guy. And they both got to get out there early. Then obviously we've seen what Brantley has done at that point, and I think that it's not that you know, Brad doesn't have the capabilities of doing that, and that's where we're talking with that, trying to, you know, give him another opportunity to get out there. I know he's been throwing really well in the bullpen, and another guy that's just really been working, waiting on his opportunity. I know he wants to get out there, and I'll imagine before the end of the year he will be out there again, and you never know when he might fulfill a real important role later in the year.
That's what I was going to say. There's a whole lot of baseball left to be played, over 15 just regular season games before you even get into the conference play, and we all know a lot of different things can happen in a conference tournament.
Sure, and that's the thing too. You never know what's going to happen. Injuries might come up, and you know, that's why I said I think that's the important thing that I've seen and talked to Coach Hancock is how well that all the pitchers are still working hard. I mean, I know that's hard. That's tough to go out there not knowing if you're going to get your chance, not going to get your chance, and it's easy just to kind of go, well, what's it matter? But I think they've all been able to keep their focus, and I think, like I said, we saw what Drew did because he was able and he was ready and he'd been working at it, and I think those other guys will have that same, if they get that same opportunity, I think they'll be able to perform the same way.
We've talked a lot about the pitching staff, but the Lions been continuing to be able to score runs. You're second in the conference in runs scored. That starts with Michael Schmidt. As we mentioned earlier, he's batting .402, but he's your most patient batter, and he gets on base, you know, 60% of the time, just really doing a great job in that leadoff spot.
Yeah, that's, you know, leadoff for, you know, each program has kind of different philosophies the way they want to do it, and that's one thing. I like our leadoff guy to be very patient, not going to chase many pitches, going to work the counts, going to get on base, and I think the plus side of what Michael is, he's also got a very good hitter. So he can, you know, if you walk him, he can steal. You know, he's a guy that can lay down a bunt. You know, he's a guy that can chop an infield hit, and then he can beat it out. So and then also he can do, if you want to play a little shallow, he can hit over your head, hit in the gap. So right now, I mean, he's just a very complete player.
Jake Sloan batting .333, having another great season, but one guy's really made a move, Darmal Moore, now batting .310, and he's really been productive for you.
Yeah, I think, you know, Darmal is extremely fast, and, you know, I think he's been very productive in the 9-hole, and he's a guy that has surprisingly pop in his bat, too. But I think where he is at his best is when he can work counts, kind of be like a second leadoff guy, be able to bunt, put the pressure on the defense, and like, again, that Valdosta, he came up with the base load and had a big hit. You know, they were trying to say, well, we don't want to walk him. They threw a fastball, and he had a real solid double. So, like I said, you know, plus he's been, you know, very solid for us in the outfield.
The Lions' next game on Wednesday at Montevallo, and you beat Montevallo at home, but they're a very good ball club.
Montevallo is a very good offensive team. I know they've been, if you kind of look, see what's been going on with them, is their pitching's always been struggling a bit, but offensively they're tremendous.
Thanks for being with us here again on the UNA Baseball Review. Hope to see you again next week.
Thank you again for watching the UNA Baseball Review. Please join us again next Sunday at 11:30.